Oh, Cecilia, you're breaking my heart by going to Italy, but why would you think this convent is a safe haven? It will not be the savior that you think it will be. Cecilia. Immaculate comes to us from Neon Studios and stars Sydney Sweeney as Cecilia, a sister who wants to go to this convent, devote her life to God, and then she ends up with Immaculate Conception and must decide what Cecilia must do to prevent the birth of the possible Antichrist. And let's go to Cecilia's story. Yeah, had to just keep doing that because I had to find some entertainment with Immaculate. Okay, maybe tipping my hands at how I felt about Immaculate starring Sydney Sweeney as Sister Cecilia. So yeah, Neon Studios, you put them or A24 on the goddamn marquee and I'm pretty much guaranteed to be there, either in theaters or on a streaming service. Maybe not actually on a streaming service because you can't really be on one. You can log on to one. You can't be on a streaming service unless you're on top of the goddamn building deciding to hack in and say, oh, what are you hiding from us? And, ooh, I love this movie and you're showing this in Bolivia but not over here. No, I don't know what I'm goddamn on about. Anyway, so yeah, Neon Studios. Put them on the marquee. Good. It's usually pretty good. So this was directed by Michael Mahan, who did The Voyeurs, that also had Sydney Sweeney in it. Sydney Sweeney was also recently in Madam Web. Apparently she is in a few other things. And this was written by Andrew Lobel, who's done shorts. You can check out the respective IMDb pages for the full listings of their work. And yes, Sydney Sweeney as Sister Cecilia, who has suffered loss in her life and decides to join a remote convent in Italy, somewhere in Italy. I don't know where the fuck it is in Italy. I don't know much about Italy except Monica Bellucci comes from there, and that makes Italy perfectly okay with me. Look at Monica Bellucci, and then if you have to wonder why the hell I like her, you're blind. Anyway, that being said, Sydney Sweeney, yeah, she talks about some stuff that she suffered through, and we really don't know that much else about her, but she goes to this convent, and they're accepting of her. And except for like one particular sister that kind of warns her, you know, you probably shouldn't be here. You really shouldn't. Simona Tabasco. I love that sauce. Also, she's pretty goddamn beautiful. She was in The White Lotus, which I have not seen. I have heard is good, though. And there's one reason I was excited about this, besides the fact it was from Neon Studios. The character of Sister Gwen, played by Benedetta Porcaroli. Pretty certain I probably butchered that. She was in 18 Presents, which is a movie I love deeply. It hit me on a spiritual level. And Benedetta is gorgeous. I mean, good grief, she's gorgeous. And she tries to make the most of her particular role here, even though she's not given much to do. And then, yeah, for those that can't figure out by the title, Cecilia ends up a victim or maybe a benefactor or possibly just a plot device for Immaculate Conception. Kind of, but not really. The thing is, this movie's gotten a lot of hype. I mean, film festivals, early screenings. I was not able to go to an early screening of it because it happened on a day that I was working. Now, I would have liked to have seen the early screen. It would have been interesting to be there with a full audience because I was in a theater that holds about 100 people. There was about maybe 10. And by the time the opening scene was done, there were 8. I don't know why that couple left. I don't know if they thought that it was some other movie. I don't know if they didn't know it was a horror movie. I don't know if they went into the wrong theater. I don't know if their brains were put on backwards. Nevertheless, let's get back to this movie. Cecilia must solve the mystery before she ends up history. Immaculate Conception Tales, woohoo. All right, so let's get into how I felt about this movie. Didn't like it. Didn't like it one goddamn bit. I will explain why. Even though I love Neon Studios and I was excited to see this, what gave me pause, and I'm sorry because I know people like her, Sydney Sweeney. I am convinced she is not very good at acting. She pretty much just gets by because people like how she looked. I mean, maybe I'm just not seeing it. I did not see anyone but you, except for a few clips. I was not all that impressed. I may check it out at some point. And maybe she can get better, but she, to me, she reeks of Gal Gadot. Maybe not nearly as inept when it comes to world events, but Sydney Sweeney just strikes me as somebody that needs to rely more on her looks because her acting ability is just not up to snuff. And it sure wasn't here. Look, was she a little bit better than in Madam Web? Well, yes, but that's not saying much. And this was stripped down. It was like a 60s, 70s, 80s Italian-influenced horror movie that basically just gave you the bare bones and then went just, it said it went full bore in the third act. Let me tell you right now, it really fucking didn't. There was nothing surprising in this. There was nothing that really made me say, wow, I'm so glad that I waited around for almost 90 minutes to see that. I'm sorry, this movie is aggressively boring and just not good. The jump scare noises were fucking dog shit. There was one part in the trailer that also made it in the movie where the main nun, the madam of the nunnery, the convent, whatever, the sister superior, sister genetically superior based on how everybody was acting, she was saying suffering is love. Suffering, suffering, suffering. Suffering is an appropriate word to apply to this movie because, yeah, there was a lot of suffering. Suffering from the viewer, having to try to find anything positive with this. If you're a novice to horror, then maybe you might get some enjoyment out of this. And I wanted to like it, because again, I like Neon Studio offerings, and there were elements that could have worked. The problem is Sydney Sweeney is not very fucking good at acting. She's just not. And she didn't understand, how this happened. How did this happen to me? The character, I mean. I fully am in the belief that Sydney Sweeney probably doesn't understand how Immaculate or Conception in general works. I'm sorry, I just do not get it with her. I really don't. A few atmospheric shots, but the jump scare noises were shit. The opening made me laugh, so that's not a good sign. And then there were things, let's have them watch this stuff in the background. Oh, this scary thing happened. Here's the problem. That shit's been done in other movies. And sure, Sydney Sweeney is able to flex a little bit and do a few, scary moments and everything and really get upset. It just doesn't work because this movie overall doesn't work. When you don't have a lead actress that's very good and you have an ensemble cast that's full of a couple pretty women that are trying their best, and then one, Father Sal, I know he had another last name, but I'm just going to call him Father Sal because it sounds funnier. Alvaro Monte, he was okay, I guess. Again, you don't have a reason to root against any of the villain or villains or the entity or whatever. You don't have a reason to root for Sydney Sweeney. You don't have really a reason to root for anybody in this. You root for it to be over. That's really about it. That's all I can say. So I am going to get into spoilers. It's in theaters if you want to check it out. But nope, didn't care for this. Didn't understand why the critics said it was so goddamn good. 3, 2, 1. Anyway, spoilers. There we go. So yeah, in the beginning, there was rap. As our Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said, and I will continue to say that. Why? Because that song is forever in my head because I have some issues. Can't remember where my goddamn keys are most days, even though they're usually in my pocket or on my countertop. But I can remember a Dr. Dre reference. Now, that being said, in the beginning, a lady's trying to escape, a nun's trying to escape, a sister escaper, oh, would you try to run and clank the keys around until you find the only one that will unlock it, okay? Yeah, I had to go with that. Good old Sister Christian, even though they're Catholic. She gets her leg busted, gets dragged away by some Darth Sith Lord nuns, as I called them. Actually, they kind of reminded me of the nuns that were in a brief shot of the Garbage Push It video. Except the Garbage Push It video made more sense. Sydney is not very good. Again, I'm sorry. She's just fucking not. She got a few chances to emote, and she still wasn't that great. And other times, I was convinced that she actually came out of the womb in a soma coma and never woke up. So, Sister Mary basically tries to warn her, you need to behave, this kind of stuff and whatever, and kind of gives her snide looks, and also is trying to get rid of her, maybe because there's a reason, maybe because we need a little bit of foreshadowing, even though we can perfectly see where this is going. It turns out they have a file on her. Why do they have a file on her? Because they keep doing genetic experiments, taking material from a piece of the cross that Christ died on, sure it wasn't, and there were bone fragments and DNA and everything. And they genetically modify and do stuff and put it in women, and when they can't carry it to term, then they find another woman with blackjack and hookers. They have to find virgins and do all this stuff. And this is like if the Pope's exorcist tried to go more serious. I mean, that's kind of what it reminded me. I admittedly gave the Pope's exorcist a much higher score than I should have. This is one of those movies where it just ends up not clicking at all. And any of the violent parts, you're like, okay. A lot of it's so dark you can't see what the fuck is going on. And that has nothing to do with either eyesight or the theater not turning the contrast up properly. It just doesn't work. It's just too dark, and the jump scares. Did I mention the jump scares are really goddamn shit? There's this one point where this one old lady cuts off a piece of Sydney Sweeney's hair. I imagine she has crazy fans who would pay a lot of money for that. You're sick, just want to say. And then later, this old lady has made a little doll type thing tied up, of her hair. But then it's like, you will never leave, you will never leave. Also, Father Sal, and obviously evil from the very beginning. Obviously. You do get to see a few shots of the two main reasons why Sydney Sweeney keeps getting roles, despite the fact that, while I'm sure she's nice, she is not good at this. She's just not. I cannot get over that. She looks good. Don't get me wrong. She seems personable in interviews. It doesn't translate to anything good on camera. It just, as far as on the big screen, it just fucking doesn't. So, anyways, Cecilia ended up almost drowning when she was a kid, but she survived and saw it as divine intervention. And she decides it is because her parents died in some accident in Detroit. Damn you, Reaganomics. Need to rewatch Barbarian because I actually displayed Reaganomics in a really good way. It was actually really good. I like Barbarian. Fuck you. So this one sister, Isabel, tries to drown Sydney Sweeney, and then ends up, yelling and everything after the nuns get her because she's pregnant, by the way, by this point. Sister Sydney, Cecilia Sweeney. She is like, it should have been me, trying again with me. Oh, great. What the hell's Dolph Ziggler doing here? Actually, it was supposed to be me. Let's just go with the courtesy of the line. And then she decides she can't take it anymore, and then in a background shot falls to her death. ... Ooh. Look out. JR, stall for time. Why am I like this? Why am I? Only deep cut wrestling fans are going to get that. Fortunately, it was not the Kemper Arena. It wasn't even that tough of a fall. The fall doesn't hurt. It's that quick stop. Hell of a buckle bump. What is wrong with me? So, basically, it turns out they're doing all these genetic experiments. They had this file on her. All this stuff's going on. And she's pregnant. And the stuff, either she's really, really super, she's there forever, or this pregnancy goes really, really fast. I mean, they're never quite totally clear. And then she tries to fake it by, killing a bird and having a rooster's head in a sheet and doing all these terrible, all this terrible stuff while she's bleeding. And then she can't get away. And then she runs away in a field and has remarkably good, 100-meter dash speed for somebody that's supposed to be almost ready to give birth. So, yeah, the genetic code's in the cross piece. They cut off Sister Gwen's tongue, I believe, at some point, because Benedetta decides to get all vocal and everything and yell in Italian, because she yelled at me in Italian. I don't have issues. You have issues. She's great, though. With honest respect, she actually is a really good actress. Check out 18 President. She's really fucking good. So, Cecilia is pinned down on this one particular, bed, and then beats Sister Superior with something. Beats the shit out of her. I think it's a cross. Kills her. And then her water breaks. And then she's having to fight out. She ends up killing... she ends up first burning Father Sal by throwing a bunch of, the chemicals, flammable chemicals in this lab that they just happen to have in these catacombs. Or near these catacombs. She sets it on fire, but he manages to bust out the door, so he's going to come after her through the catacombs, through the window, through the wall. And then she's almost giving birth, and then he attacks her, and she has the piece of the cross and stabs him in the neck, and then crawls out, and then sharts out the kid, or whatever it is. We don't ever actually see it, but she's yelling. Look, childbirth, from what I understand, is a very painful thing, and any woman that can go through that and survive and keep on keeping on is a tough thing, and we need to respect people to go through that. That being said, she gets a rock, delays a second, and smash, and that's it. She smashes once, and it cuts to black. This movie should have been cut to black. This movie should have faded to black. This movie was not good. I'm sorry. It just fucking wasn't. I do not see what the appeal of this was. I just don't. I don't mind stripped down horror. I don't mind it where it's down to the basics and you just have to rely on, some gore, a little atmosphere, and a strong lead performance. The key word for that last one is strong. And it was certainly a lead performance, but it wasn't strong. Yeah, F. Agree, disagree, what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.